January 1917. The world is on fire. In Europe, the trenches of the First World War are consuming a generation, but across the Atlantic, the United States is sleeping with one eye open. American military strategists are terrified of one specific scenario. If the German Empire conquers the tiny kingdom of Denmark, they inherit Denmark's colonies. And if German U-boats gain a base in the Caribbean, they will have a straight shot at America's new jugular vein, the Panama Canal. To stop this, the United States didn't send battleships. They sent a checkbook. But this wasn't just a real estate deal. It was a high-stakes poker game involving secret ultimatums, a desperate king, and the purchase of 26,000 human beings who had absolutely no say in their own fate. This is the story of January 17, 1917, the day the United States paid a record-breaking fortune to buy the Virgin Islands, and why that purchase is darker and more critical than you ever imagined. Today, we know the U.S. Virgin Islands as a paradise, a cruise ship haven. But for nearly 250 years, these islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, were the Danish West Indies, and they were built on sugar and suffering. In the 1700s, these islands were the crown jewels of the Danish economy. The harbor of Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas was one of the busiest ports in the world. But this wealth was extracted through the brutal machinery of chattel slavery. When slavery was finally abolished in 1848, following a massive revolt by the enslaved population, the economic equation broke. Without forced labor, the sugar industry collapsed. By the late 1800s, the jewel of the Caribbean had become Denmark's poorhouse. Denmark was bleeding money. The islands were costing the Danish treasury thousands of dollars every year to maintain. The Danish government wanted out. They wanted to sell. And believe it or not, the United States had been trying to buy these islands for 50 years before the deal actually went through. So why did it take half a century? Because every time they tried, something catastrophic happened. It was almost as if the sale was cursed. Rewind to 1867. Secretary of State William Seward, the same man who bought Alaska, signed a treaty to buy the islands for $7.5 million. It was a done deal. Denmark agreed, the US agreed, and then nature intervened. Less than a month after the treaty was signed, a massive hurricane smashed into the islands. A few weeks later, an earthquake and a tsunami. The US Senate, seeing the devastation and busy fighting over Reconstruction politics, left the treaty to die on the desk. Fast forward to 1902. They try again. This time, the German Kaiser is watching. Rumors swirl in Copenhagen that German agents are bribing Danish politicians to block the sale. Why? Because Germany wants those islands for a naval base. When the Danish parliament votes, the sale fails by a single vote. An elderly member was reportedly wheeled into the chamber specifically to cast the tie-breaking no. Twice, the deal failed. But by 1915, the geopolitical chessboard had changed completely. World War I wasn't just a skirmish, it was industrial slaughter. And the United States, watching from the sidelines, realized something terrifying. The year is 1915. The Panama Canal has just opened. It is the most important strategic asset the United States possesses. It connects the Atlantic and Pacific fleets. Whoever controls the Caribbean approaches to the canal, controls the security of the United States. Enter Robert Lansing, the U.S. Secretary of State. He receives intelligence suggesting that Germany might be preparing to overrun Denmark. If Denmark falls, Germany claims the islands. If Germany claims the islands, U-boats will be parked right off the coast of Puerto Rico. Lansing didn't ask nicely. He essentially threatened the Danish minister, Constantin Brun. During a dinner party in New York, Lansing pulled Brun aside and delivered a message that was chilling in its clarity. He told the Danish diplomat, effectively, "We will buy these islands. But if you refuse to sell, and we think Germany is about to take them, we might just seize them ourselves to prevent that from happening." Denmark was cornered. They had to sell. But they knew the US was desperate, so they jacked up the price. They demanded $25 million in gold coin. Let's put that number in perspective. The US bought the massive territory of Alaska for $7.2 million. They bought the Louisiana Territory, which doubled the size of the country, for $15 million. For 3 tiny islands, a total of just 133 square miles, they paid $25 million. That's nearly $300 per acre, compared to the 2 cents per acre paid for Alaska. It was the most expensive land acquisition in American history by area. But the US wasn't buying land. They were buying insurance against the German Empire. The deal was struck. On January 17, 1917, the final exchange of ratifications took place. In Washington, D.C., a Treasury warrant for $25 million was handed over to the Danish minister. The deal was legally sealed, but the real drama happened a few weeks later, on Transfer Day, March 31st. Imagine standing in the crowd that afternoon. For the Danish officials, it was a funeral. They were watching 250 years of history end. At 4 p.m., the Danish flag began its descent. Accounts from that day describe a heaviness in the air. The Danish governor, Henri Konev, proclaimed the transfer with tears in his eyes. But what about the people? The 26,000 Virgin Islanders. No one had asked them. There was no referendum for the residents. They were transferred like property. Many islanders gathered hoping for a better future. Under Denmark, the economy had stagnated. Poverty was rampant. They looked at the stars and stripes rising up the flagpole and saw hope. Hope for jobs, hope for rights, hope for prosperity. But as the band played Hail Columbia, a strange reality set in. The US Navy was now in charge. These islands weren't becoming a state. They were becoming a naval base. The transition was jarring. The US Navy ran the islands like a battleship. The governor was an admiral, and the people, they were in legal limbo. Here's the twist that most people forget. When the US bought the islands, the people living there did not automatically become US citizens. For 10 years, they were nationals, essentially subjects without a full country. It wasn't until 1927 that citizenship was finally granted. And even today, while Virgin Islanders are US citizens, they cannot vote for the President of the United States if they live on the islands, despite having one of the highest per capita enlistment rates in the US. Military. Was the $25 million worth it? In the short term, yes. When the US entered Wabiubabian just 3 months after the purchase, the islands provided a vital communication and listening post. In World War II, they became an unsinkable aircraft carrier, protecting the Panama Canal exactly as planned. The purchase of the Virgin Islands on January 17, 1917, was a move born out of fear. It was a strategic checkmate in a world war that claimed millions. But it remains a complex legacy. It saved the US from a German threat, but it also highlighted the uncomfortable reality of colonial deals, where land and people are traded for gold coins in quiet rooms. The next time you see a picture of those pristine beaches, remember, that paradise was once the most expensive and most desperate real estate deal in American history. If you want to dive deeper into the hidden history of the Caribbean and the Great War, I've pinned a list of fascinating books in the description below and in the first pinned comment. If you want more history that feels like a movie, Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. I'll see you in the next chapter of the past.